never believed in ghost stories on the road. Not in hauntings, not in lost signals, not in any of those campfire tales the rookies whisper at rest areas when the night gets too quiet. I always said the same thing. Out here, the only thing that scares me is a four-wheeler texting at 80 miles per hour. But that was before the night my radio picked up a mayday from a driver who'd been dead for more than 20 years. I remember that moment the way some people remember their first wreck. Frame by frame, breath by breath, like my mind refuses to let it fade. It happened on a stretch of the I-70 heading west out of Kansas, long, flat, and empty as far as a man can see. It was late fall, the air sharp as broken glass, sky clear, stars so bright they looked like headlights frozen in place. I was hauling dry freight to Denver, just me, the hum of my engine, and 15 hours of asphalt to swallow. The night smelled like diesel and cold iron, that dry Midwestern cold that creeps through the vents no matter how high you crank the heater. My Freightliner shook gently under me, steady, predictable, like a heartbeat I'd grown used to. I had the AM radio low, just enough to keep me company, and the CB on Channel 19, even though the chatter had died off miles earlier. Every few minutes I glanced at the mirrors, see nothing but black stretching behind me, like the world had been erased. I wasn't tired yet, not really, but there was a kind of weight in the air. Something still, something too still. Even the road felt off, like the sound of my tires wasn't echoing right, like the darkness had soaked up the noise. Around mile marker 312, the static on my CB shifted. Not louder, deeper, like the frequency itself thickened. Then it cut out entirely. That alone wasn't strange. Kansas can swallow a signal whole. But what happened next was different. Wrong in a way I felt in my bones. The radio clicked. A tiny sound, like someone pressing the button on a microphone. Then a voice pushed through the static. Mayday, Mayday, this is Truck 4-1, northbound. Brake failure. God help me. I froze. My hand tightened on the wheel. My heart hit my ribs so hard it hurt. The voice sounded shredded by distance, like it had traveled too far. And yet beneath all the distortion, it was unmistakably human. Panicked, young. I grabbed my mic without thinking. Breaker 19, say again, who's calling Mayday on 70 northbound? Silence answered me. Silence and the faint crackle of dead air. Then the transmission cut in again, more frantic this time, like the man was shouting through a storm. My brakes, they're gone. I can't. Someone tell my wife. I slammed on my flashes and pulled into the right lane, scanning the horizon, searching for headlights, taillights, anything. But the interstate was empty in both directions. Completely empty. That's when something else hit me. Truck 4-1, northbound. Brake failure. It sounded familiar. Too familiar. I'd heard that story before. 20 years ago, a driver named Cole Harmon, rookie, 23, baby face, talked too much, smiled too easy, Lost his brakes hauling cattle down the Eisenhower grade. He radioed for help, voice panicked. Before rolling his truck, the wreck killed him. The clip of his final Mayday used to play in training videos for new drivers. But Cole died in 2004. And his call had happened hundreds of miles from where I was driving. There was no reason, absolutely no reason, for his voice to be coming through my radio in 2024 on a flat, empty Kansas interstate. I'd ridden with Cole 3 times before he passed. I never forgot the sound of his voice when he got excited. This little hitch in his throat like he couldn't get the words out quick enough. That same hitch cracked through the static on the next transmission. This is truck 4-1. I can't hold her. Someone... Then a scream. Then metal. Twisting. Tearing. The exact crash sound from the old training tape. My stomach turned to stone. This wasn't interference. This wasn't someone messing around. This was the past clawing its way into the present. I reached for the mic again, my fingers shaking. Truck 4-1, if you can hear me, where are you? Do you copy? Do you? The radio popped. Loud, sharp, like the sound of an electrical arc snapping right next to my ear. Then, silence. A silence that felt heavy enough to crush me. The interstate rolled on, mile after mile of black nothing. Wind buffeting the side of my trailer like hands trying to get my attention. I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting to see headlights barreling toward me, a runaway truck that didn't exist anymore. But there was nothing behind me, and nothing ahead. Just the voice of a man who shouldn't have been able to speak. I drove for maybe 15 minutes without saying a word, without touching the radio, barely even breathing. My chest felt tight, my throat dry. I kept hearing Cole's voice looping in my head, not the recording, but this version. Alive, desperate. When I finally found a rest area, a tiny one, beat up and lonely, just a bathroom shack and 2 light poles flickering like they were tired, I pulled in fast and killed the engine. The sudden silence made my ears ring. I sat there in the dark cab, hands still on the wheel, trying to make sense of what happened, trying to convince myself it was some old frequency bounce, some atmospheric coincidence, some weird radio artifact. But then my CB crackled to life, one last time. A whisper, "Thank you." That wasn't in the training video. That wasn't part of any known recording. And it wasn't static. It sounded like someone standing right beside me. I didn't move for a long time. The kind of stillness where you're afraid that if you breathe wrong, something might answer. Later, when I told a state trooper friend about the incident, he shook his head and said radios do funny things. They pick up old signals, bounce them off the atmosphere, replay them years later. But he didn't hear what I heard. He didn't feel what I felt. He didn't know that Cole never got to say goodbye to anyone. Not his wife, not his kid who wasn't even born yet. But that whisper felt like closure. Like a man finally finishing a sentence he never got the chance to end. Sometimes on long nights when the road stretches out like forever and the darkness feels too quiet, I still think about that transmission. I still hear his voice. I still wonder why it reached me, why it reached only me. And every time I pass mile marker 312 on the I-70, I find myself turning down the radio, rolling the window a crack, letting the cold air hit my face, and saying softly into the dark, "Rest easy, Cole. Keep the rubber side down." Because some calls don't come from this world, but some answers do.